the 79th episode of CloudFocus Weekly for the third week of February 2012. Also, I think the last full week of February. This episode is titled United Drive. CloudFocus Week is sponsored by Arkus, your cloud computing experts, and I'm your host, Jason Atwood. Joining me today for the 79th time, almost going to hit 80 here, is the co-host of CloudFocus Weekly, Justin Ellison. Justin, how are you doing on this sort of overcast day?
I was waiting for you to say co-host extraordinaire.
That is not going to happen. Oh. Not on this podcast.
Well, this will be, I think, our last podcast for the month of February.
Yeah,
right?
So we could...
Little programming note.
Next week, if you're a United States citizen, next week is a big national holiday for schools. And so people... plan their vacations around those weeks, and so yes, there will be no podcast next week at all. But if you are missing us that much, you can always go back and listen to the other 78 episodes of CloudFocus Weekly found at blog.arkusinc.com. You can play them all in line, and I will even, as my CloudFocus App Pick of the Week, talk about something. A better way to listen to podcasts. All right. And then as Justin scrolls to the bottom to look at it.
Interesting.
Which I've already told
I'm going to go download that.
Oh, yeah. We'll
right
see.
Now.
We'll see. All right. So we have an agenda. We're going to talk about a new blog post on householding in Salesforce.com, or automatic householding in Salesforce.com, which is kind of interesting, something we did, and we're going to talk about it. Talk about Google Drive and what it means for everybody, including the competitors. And then we have sort of from a blog post and podcast before, Salesforce is officially given the word on when they're going to depreciate Google Adwords for Salesforce. And so we know now when it will happen. And so we'll talk about that. And then we will make our CloudFocus App Pick of the Week. So let's get into it. We went over the news, the cloud computing news of the week, and not a lot.
Not much.
Not a lot. So this is the news as it is. So here we go.
Let's do it.
So first up is my blog post. Actually, I guess I came up in rotation.
You came up in the weekly rotation that is now in place.
Yes,
which makes it a little more organized.
It's always been in place, but now there's sort of more of themes we're trying to hit.
More structure.
So I'll just talk about this. It's going to be on blog.arkusinc. By the time this sound of this word hits your ears, it will be up there. But basically,
that's thinking fourth dimensional.
It is. It's not the first, not the second, not the third, but the fourth dimension. But basically, it's a quick blog post, because it's not a full description of the, what happened, because it's a little, don't want to give away too much of the secret sauce. But basically talking about householding in Salesforce. So, if you're a Salesforce user, you know accounts and contacts, and person accounts, and most people track accounts as businesses or vendors or competitors or customers or clients, right? And they put people in them. But in some situations, and mostly in financial services industry and in banking, people become the thing that most systems track, like other external systems or core banking systems, as they call them. And so you have these people who are related to financial accounts. And so really that's most systems. And when they integrate with Salesforce, that's what data comes over. It's people related in a many-to-many relationship with financial accounts, and they have roles and things like that. So I kind of explained that in the blog post. But then to go further, the thing that Salesforce has, but most core financial systems don't do very well, is a concept called householding. And that is that if you or me and my wife...
me and your wife.
Or you and my wife. That doesn't make any sense. If we both, in a core system, we both have accounts, right? But since we're individuals and we're connected only to these accounts, there's no real concept of, are these people in a household together? So what they usually do is they use third-party tools, which require sort of exporting of data, sending it to these tools. These tools then munge through all the data, and then using logic, connect them up. So that's timely, it's costly, and whatever. So we built on the Force.com platform for a client recently an automatic householding in which it's a program written in Apex and set on a batch, which goes through all these contacts and their related financial accounts, and based on a lot of secret sauce formulas and logic, automatically throws them into accounts, builds the accounts, the households for them, and then throws them in. And so while the core banking system might not know that Jason and Sarah are together, based on the logic saying that maybe that their address is the same, that their that their last name, whatever, it will come in and build them into these households. So we built this product, and that's what the blog post is talking about. I think what we should talk about, because that's in the blog post, what we should talk about is really, what other ways we work with a lot of financial services industry companies. Yep. We have people who are using person accounts. Why don't you explain person accounts, and then we'll talk about sort of the pros and cons of that.
So one of the most often times that we run into person accounts is with the wealth management edition of Salesforce that was built as a package that wealth management firms use sometimes to their own detriment. Sometimes it's a great decision, but there are pros and cons to everything. I
have a question for you.
Go on.
Do you have any clients who have used it for a long time, more than a year, and who look back and are happy with that decision?
No.
Yeah.
Generally, they look back and wish that they didn't start down that path.
So I think that's if you want to use this as the advice corner of CloudFocus Weekly, make sure that even though it might be the one that's in your edition or that you were given when you start up, just make sure it really makes sense, because there are a lot of drawbacks, and you can talk about some of them. But.
Sure. So it uses person accounts, and person accounts, just to stay a little high level and not deep dive too far into it, is it uses the account object as a contact. So you no longer have contacts inside of Salesforce. You have these accounts that are people, and they sync down to Outlook as contacts. They inherit fields from the contact object. So when you want to create a new field on a person account, you create it on the contact, and it flows over to the person account record type of an account. So it looks a little different for those Salesforce admins out there. You have in your customized menu, you have accounts, and then you have your record types for accounts, and then underneath that, like as a sub menu, you have person accounts, and you'll have record types and page layouts for those record types of accounts, which are in essence contacts. Right. So contacts kind of disappear, and these person accounts, in essence contacts, appear. And the reason to use that is because you get the contact functionality, but you don't have to create that like shadow individual person account to then create the contact underneath it, that like one-to-many relationship that exists between accounts to contacts.
It's really for people who are dealing with consumers who don't want to capture anything sort of above the consumer. So it's usually consumer-based, like I deal with only people, and in essence, before I add Jason Atwood, I don't want to have to go add some other account above Jason Atwood.
You don't want to say individual - Jason Atwood as the account with only that information, nothing else. You don't need anything else there, just the name.
Right.
And then you create the contact, which has all the rich information about him. So that's person accounts in a nutshell. The wealth management package that we've seen uses person accounts and does householding in a slightly different way than what our custom application for householding does. They created, and when I say they, this was built by Salesforce a bunch of years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, created a few objects, relationship group and relationship group member. And the relationship group is as a whole. You can consider that the household, but it's a little more than just the household, because it can include any number of relationship group members. And when I say any number of, I mean up to 20.
Yeah.
At the time,
there's actually a limitation.
There's a limit because there's a lot of roll-ups that go through that. Sort of junction record of the relationship group member. You can have a role, a primary, secondary. You can attach accountants or lawyers or third parties with interest into these relationship groups, and that sort of forms the household. So you have these person accounts, people, these relationship groups, households, and these relationship group members to sort of connect the person account to the relationship group.
Kind of like contact roles do on an account, but they're all under that relationship group.
That's right. And what we did was a little different, because we didn't like junction the household together. We junctioned the person to their financial account, and then used that financial account role to logically figure out, because in a banking world, you have your account, and your account has an address.
Right.
You, the person, you don't necessarily have an address.
Right.
Your accounts have addresses.
Right, your accounts have addresses.
So we
because
figured...
for statements and stuff like that, they need to have an address on the account.
Right.
So I could have 7 different accounts, and most systems, if I had 7 different accounts, I might have different addresses on each one of those different accounts.
That's true.
Which is
So what we did was
sticky.
we figured out which address to put on your contact based on like your most recently opened account that you are the primary on, something along those lines. Not to give away everything, but essentially we got to the point where we were able to figure out who belongs in what account, and then create the account and put them in there based on data that we had through those other objects, not sort of relationship group member, which abstracts it away from the standard account contact functionality.
Right. If you stay with the exact contact, the account contact, then there is functionality you gain out of it. So again, it's one of those things. I would say there's always a choice, person accounts versus regular accounts when you're doing an implementation. You just have to make sure that it's the right scenario. Again, my big warning is every time I've talked to someone who's used it for more than a time period, and again, some people we've launched onto it, because they say this is great and they use it, then that's fine. They like it for 5 minutes. But the people who I know who use it the most and have been on it for the longest generally look back and say, I wish I hadn't done that. There are limitations in it. It is a package. There's all sorts of stuff too about the package itself. So just as a warning when you're doing that. But anyway, it's another way of looking at households. And I'm sure for all of you who use Salesforce, sometimes that's hard to explain. I just did a lot of training for the last 2 days, and having to re-explain accounts, contacts, opportunities, and sort of to people who haven't seen it before, it always kind of brings to light some of the intricacies and trying to explain it the best. So that was it. Anyway, the blog post is on blog.arkusinc.com. You can go read it there. Next up is something that has been coming. I think we might talk about this in a podcast like last year, which is now it looks like Google is getting. We don't do a lot of rumors, but this is a good one. Google is looking closer and closer to releasing the G Drive or the Google Drive.
Yawn.
Really?
Yawn.
This is not a yawn.
Ho-hum.
This is not a yawn because this is a big player getting into a game that
I'm
huge.
yawning.
Why are you yawning?
I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Go on.
Alrighty. So what is big about this is Google, with the millions and millions of people using their business product and millions of people using them for Gmail, has an immediate, like, if they turn on this feature for the whatever 500 million people who have Google accounts, Google Apps accounts, and or Gmail accounts, they take a huge chunk of this market, which is becoming bigger and bigger, and which I posted in my predictions was going to become ubiquitous, that everybody would just start to use this stuff without even thinking about it. This concept of a drive on your desktop that has folders and very much looks like it, but you could access it from your desktop, but you could store all these documents, and you could easily get to them. And some, maybe they would sync, maybe they wouldn't. We talk a lot about Dropbox, but I've also been working with Box.net, which has a Salesforce integration. And there are, it's a nice thing. We use Jungle Disk, which is owned by Rackspace. So there's lots of different ways of doing this, but basically the concept is your data is stored in the cloud. And so but you can still access it like you would be accessing a document that's sitting on your desktop, which is really the best of both worlds. While Google Docs is great for editing things, collaborating, getting things in and out of it is not the easiest, and it's not as simple as opening up in Microsoft Word and clicking back. So I think that having that connection and having stuff that syncs and having all sorts of file types is huge. Again, Dropbox is making tons of money, but here comes Google and maybe drop the bomb on them in terms of features. So why is it a yawn?
Google doesn't tend to get into established markets well.
Gmail, Office,
again,
search.
I don't think that I don't think at this point in their, they've tried a lot of things.
News
to get it. I don't know if Google News is all that great or
Calendaring
important right now. I just don't think that for all the hits, they have so many more misses. And I just don't think...
Social.
I don't think they did that very well either.
Google Plus has been okay. But you're going against, the giant of social networking.
I just don't know if Google does a great job of getting into these...
Maps.
I don't think they do a great...
Shopping.
I don't think they do a great job of getting into these places as well as they should, particularly when it comes to putting something on your desktop. I just don't feel like they do that very well. And it's sort of antithetical to what Google is all about, right? I get it, it's syncing, it's storing on the web, but they're not all about physical things being on your machine or accessing physical things. It's photos, okay, but they have Picasa, and Picasa's pretty good, right? They have the ability to throw a file up into Google Docs. You just have to log into the website to get to it. I don't know if they do these physical document things very well.
Here's where they're going. Where I think they're going to want to go is that they need to have some place that is sort of... I think they need to have some sort of offline storage thing, and that's what Dropbox brings to the game. I'm on an airplane. I still have all my Dropbox documents. I can still edit them. I can still,
But Google doesn't want you in those documents.
As long as they're syncing to Google's servers, and as long as they have the copy of them, and they can provide access to them. Hey, listen, we use a competitor product to this because it is still something we want to do. And if Google were to come along and say, hey, look, Google Apps user, you guys are on Google Docs, here's this Google Drive thing, I would, as long as it worked, I would say bye-bye to Jungle Disk.
Why? Just because they're Google, or because they'd give it to you for free, or why?
1, 2, and hopefully it would integrate in some other way, meaning maybe those documents are easily...
You would just move off of Jungle Disk that has worked really well for us for a long while, just because Google came around and put out a product.
If it integrated with Google in some way that made it better, yes. Because Jungle Disk doesn't integrate with anything.
How would it integrate with Google to make it these physical files that we're storing, PDFs mostly, on our and Excel files that are data and things of that nature that need to be Excel.
Right.
How does that in any way, the integration with Google Docs, help at all?
I want it to connect to them. I want, if there's a Google Doc, I want to be able to take things that are... I basically want the view of Google Docs to be of this drive and to see it from both angles. So see it as a website thing I can collaborate on and work on, but also be able to open up the file directly off my thing and use a different tool to get to it.
So you want to open a Google Doc in Microsoft Word and edit it and have it sync back into the Google Doc?
Yeah.
Good luck if that's what this is.
Why?
Because I don't think that's what this is going to be.
You think it's just a big storage area?
Yeah, that's exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be what all these other things already are.
Well,
and Google put their little spin on it. It's Google, it's fun. But it's not going to be anything that you don't already have today. Maybe they'll give you more storage. That's kind of where I think Google could win, right? How much do you have in Dropbox? 3, 4 gigs, maybe?
3.4.
They'll be like with Gmail, they came around, they're like, here, we'll give you 25 gigs of storage or whatever they give you.
I currently have 25 gigs. Yes.
Yeah, so they'll come around with this drive and they'll be like, you got 100 gigs, go. And you're like, oh, right. Okay. Like, look at Google Music. Like, what did that do?
Yeah.
That just failed, and that's like very similar to this to me.
But I think
that's like that. We're gonna put a thing on your desktop.
Yeah.
It's gonna take files that are on your desktop and put it in our cloud, and that thing went nowhere, crashed and burned.
I will admit I don't really use it, but yes,
I don't know anybody that uses it.
But I think the panacea for these things, as we've seen with Apple products, is I want it both. I want it offline and I want it cloud.
Oh, I guess we have to wait to see what this thing is going to be. But if it's just going to be Dropbox with more storage, I don't think they're going to do that well with it.
All right. I think because they can add it as a feature onto Gmail and Google Apps, hopefully Google Apps first. That it then has. You basically get with your Gmail this cloud box, your cloud drive. That then, because it's there and because you're already using Gmail, great. I can throw things in there. But then when I'm in Gmail, I can attach things from that box. I mean, you could see they could integrate it really well.
And I think they could integrate other again. I don't think they want you using Microsoft Office documents and PowerPoints and spreadsheets. They want you using Google Docs, Sheets, and presentations.
Exactly. But if people are stopping from moving to Google Docs because it then takes it and transforms it into a Google Doc, and I can't edit it ever on my desktop in Excel when I want to, I think it's about choice. I think there are a huge set of people who don't ever use Google Docs and Google Apps because it's a one-way street and because they don't want to work on the web. But if you said, I can work on it on the web, but also here it is synced down to this place here, I can quickly open up, and that works well together. I can open up in Excel, edit in Excel, but then someone else could also edit it online.
You're never getting that.
Why?
Well, that takes some cooperation.
No, the application, when I open it up on my desktop, the thing that's sitting there that's monitoring that app would then tell the upline app, someone's opened this up. It is locked. You can't edit it online. And similarly, if someone's opening it up, there's ways to do it. Trust me, it's not impossible. But think outside the box, or think in the clouds, and you would see that would be cool. And people, I think, would then...
That would be great, but wouldn't Microsoft Office have to support the ability to open up a Google Doc in Office?
No, Google Docs, when they sync it down to the desktop in that view, they represent it as a .xls, and so then Microsoft goes, I can open that, and they open it right up. That's the thing. It makes nobody have to do any work. They do all the work. I mean, again, I think that's the power of it, and
we'll
it might
see
get people,
what it does.
That might get people
My
to
guess
move
is
over.
that it's not going to do that.
All right. Well, that's the rumor. So now we're going to merge.
I think they have places for their files to go. Right? They have Picasa. They have YouTube. Like, this is. You want to store video? Throw it in YouTube. You want to store pictures? Throw it in Picasa. I'm not sure exactly, how far this is going to go.
But documents are things that people don't just throw because they don't want to throw them. They want to have access to them on their desktop. So I think this is a way to get them to do that. And they're throwing it. They don't know they're throwing it. They're dragging folders into a drive, and they're throwing it there. Google gets the ability to sync it up.
Speaking of Google.
Yes.
Which we've been speaking about.
Yes. And Salesforce, which we also
And Salesforce. Let's talk about Google AdWords. You finally received the email that basically says what we thought it was going to say when we read the Spring 12 release notes. And just to rehash, any new Salesforce instance or org that has been created post Spring 12, so anything created today, does not include the ability to use the Salesforce for Google AdWords product that generally shipped with every org that has been spun up for the last couple of years and was an App Exchange install and has been used by us. I know at Arkus we've used it. We've set it up for other people. And we wrote about it in a blog post a few weeks back. I think you wrote that one too.
Yep.
About Salesforce taking things out of their platform.
Right.
And we all saw the writing on the wall that, well, since this isn't going to be available for anybody after Spring 12, at what point are they actually going to just pull the entire plug on this thing?
Right.
And now we know.
Yep.
So you got an email letting you know that...
First of all, I love anything that starts off...
Well, yeah, we should read the first sentence because it's pretty awesome.
Go ahead.
Read it. Unmatched pace of innovation is one of the hallmark benefits to Salesforce.com customers. And in order to continue to deliver more breakthroughs around Google AdWords, we're turning to our vibrant ecosystem of partners. Which essentially says...
Wait. First of all, someone spent a lot of time coming up with that sentence.
That essentially says, we are so great, we innovate so fast, but in this particular scenario...
We can't innovate.
We can't do it at all, and we're going to have other people do it for us.
Yeah, this in a nutshell is saying... We're not spending any more time on this crap. We're not supporting it anymore. We get tickets. It breaks. We found out that probably people don't value it as much as part of our product offering.
Well, that's what they went on. That's what they went on to say. They're focusing on innovation efforts around making Salesforce CRM you love even better, which is why we've decided to retire Salesforce for Google AdWords. Our App Exchange partners will provide similar offerings with additional capabilities so you can continue to realize success with AdWords. That's good. At least maybe they know that somebody's... I don't know of any.
Yeah, I'm going to
You should go search the App Exchange right now to figure that out.
I am.
I don't know of anybody that does this, but I'm sure there's a few out there.
Nope.
Nobody right now. Google AdWords, just the Salesforce for Google AdWords product.
Yep.
So on February 1st, 2012, which has passed, customers and prospects not yet using the service will no longer be able to activate it. So that's happened. May 1st, 2013, so a little more than a year from now, customers actively using Salesforce for Google AdWords will no longer see AdWords information added to leads and opportunities. Also, the activity on leads with AdWords information will no longer be created. And that was like my favorite part, was when you'd get a web lead and it would show you the AdWords information.
Yeah.
Like, that was great. Like, you'd see what they searched for, where they came from. You could gain some real good analytics from that.
Yep.
Again, things that you could probably replicate with Google Analytics and other techniques, but just to have it embedded right there within the application and not really have to spend a whole lot of effort setting it up. Like, it was pretty easy to set up. I don't know. I feel like this is a loss. I don't like when they take features that are useful and remove them. I mean, only they know how many people were actually using it. I have to imagine a bunch of people were using it and that it was a selling point at one point for marketing teams. Like, look, you can integrate it with Google AdWords, and they made there were definitely at least one customer out there made a purchasing decision based on this particular feature.
Sure. So just some background on it. It's Salesforce for Google AdWords. It was a strange product because it's an App Exchange product, but it was also it was installed.
I think it started as an App Exchange package. Like, if you look at, when was that?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
2007.
Yeah, it's 5 years old.
Any new org that was started up prior to Spring 12 had this installed in it.
Right.
So it was already there. It was baked in.
Yeah, I mean, I've had problems with it. I've seen it break in certain instances.
Yep.
It definitely
broke for us last year at some point.
The other thing about it is, certainly 5 years ago, the state of the App Exchange and the amount of products that were on there, and there were a lot of things that Salesforce went and built as one-offs to sort of pre-populate the App Exchange, right? Because you don't want to launch an App Exchange with crickets chirping. So I don't know what year the App Exchange was launched, but my guess is it was right around this time, like in the 2006, 2007 timeframe. And so I think they built a lot of stuff that they wanted to build to show that you could do it, because then partners would come. The problem with this one is I did a search for AdWords. There's one other thing that seems to do it, but it doesn't say that it does this exactly. So maybe this is an opportunity for all you vendors out there to create something that does this similarly. You could probably use better Google Analytics APIs and things like that to do the same tool or the same function. So I'm okay with this. I think this is actually one of those scenarios where there's a good. At least they're telling us it's a year. Great, you got a year to get off of it. That's a long time. In the cloud computing world, that's a long time to get off stuff. It's actually more than a year. There will be App Exchange products. It's something that can be replaced. It's not something like a built-in functionality that can't be replaced easily. And I think that it allows them to go and work on other stuff. I want Salesforce to, and I want all companies or companies that I enjoy not to get caught up trying to do everything and just do the things that you do better. We talk about doing the core. We've talked about the core and is Salesforce working on the core. If this takes 2 more developers and puts them to work on many who, great, because I'd rather have that than this piece. This is a nice to have. I'd rather have more core functionality. So
2 questions for you.
Questions.
1, is this the death of Google and Salesforce?
The relationship between them, I think we're starting to see a slow turn of where they used to be much more tightly integrated. I think they're getting less and less tightly integrated, and this is one of those.
I mean, now I can think of 2 integrations that still exist. One, the ability to add a Google Doc to the notes and attachments related list.
Yep.
I guess that includes content as well.
Doesn't work in Chrome, although there's a workaround for it. Use the Firefox one.
Well, not just the browser plugin, the ability to just go to the related list and say, add Google Doc and have it be added. I guess content as well. So that's the third one. You can add a Google Doc into Salesforce content.
Right. The Gmail
and then the Gmail, which is a very light integration.
It basically sends you over with an email to Salesforce built in.
It's a pretty light one.
It pre-populates a field.
Yeah, so that one's not really a huge. I mean, I guess it's single sign-on, so that's integration.
Yeah.
The other one, the adding the Google Doc, doesn't really.
There's also the Google App Engine stuff. There's the APIs. You can still use APIs from Salesforce to talk, and I think that's where you would go with this.
But none of that's none of that's built into the product.
And I think actually we should follow up on this news, which is it is news for a lot of people out there, which is that the Google Sync for Calendar, Sync to Calendar, which used to be a free product by Aperio for many, many years and worked pretty well, has now actually, they flipped it from being a free product to a pay product. They've actually added more functionality, and I think it's $40 a year per user. And now you can sync your content. They basically had a pay product and a free product. They basically did away with the free product and replaced it with the pay product. And so that's an interesting one too. It's like something that used to be kind of just click, you're done. Now is a pay product on top of Salesforce. At $40 a year, whatever that is. That's not a ton.
Well, that's Aperio's prerogative. That's a third party's prerogative.
Yes, but remember, this was also one of those products that was installed, and you could click, install inside of Salesforce and add it into Salesforce. It used to be. Remember, there used to be a whole section called Google Integration, and they had all these installable packages, and you could install them right from within Salesforce.
That one I don't remember.
Okay.
I mean, whatever. If it was there, it was there. I don't remember seeing it that way.
And it showed you which ones were installed.
Oh, you don't say.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Still exists.
Yeah, it does.
So there's a whole section called Google Apps in the settings, and there are these listings.
But I don't see that one in particular.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's not there. It used to be there. There used to be another one that did that showed you how to take analytics, reports, and send them over to Google Docs.
Interesting.
They've kind of removed it from here, but anyway,
quietly. So the last question that I think comes out of this is there was another feature in Spring 12 that got canned for new orgs.
Got the depreciation,
which was self-service portal, which I think is more widely used and has a much wider impact because it's client-facing. Like Salesforce for Google Adwords is, if it goes away, it's nobody knows the wiser except the Salesforce user. If self-service portal were to just disappear in a year, you have to do a lot of work because presumably if you have one, you have people logging into it.
Right.
You have to really, like, that's like changing your website and changing the address to it.
Yep.
Like, you have to now find it.
So, it hasn't come out yet. So they said no new, so it's the same thing for both of these, right? No new and new org starting in spring 12.
Right.
This one they're saying now, gone as of May 1, 2013.
Google AdWords.
I'm saying self-service, I'm going to place my bet as sometime in 2014.
It's going to be a tough one. That's a tough one.
Well, but given enough time, I think that's okay. You have to be able to say it's 2 years away.
That's a real tough one. You're because the replacement is a pay product.
Right. Well, there is a replacement for this, but we don't know if it's free or not free.
No, but the replacement for self-service portal is a Salesforce provided portal that is you have to pay for.
Yeah. Could you see them not launching a light version of that portal
for free?
Yeah.
I could see them doing that.
I could see them doing that too. I could see them saying, here's the path. Because I think this is an architecture question. I said this before. That self-service portal is based on 10-year-old architecture. The customer portal and partner portal are based on new architecture. And what they want is you to stop using this old architecture. I think they'll give you a path to get off of it. And I think if you're a big enough customer, they'll give you a good reason to get off of it. Then they get you on the new architecture, and then they can upsell you to all the stuff that new architecture can do. That self-service portal was never going to do, never could do, and was never meant to do. So, all right. Well, that's our basically Google and Salesforce news of the day. Let's do our CloudFocus App Pick of the week. That is for you new people who are just tuning in for the first time. We pick every week. Justin and I pick an application. We try to make it some sort of cloud basis, but sometimes, since we've now picked 79 or almost 80 each, sometimes you go off and can't do that. So we end up picking something that is not based in the cloud, although mine is. So go ahead with your pick, because you always go first.
I do always go first. I'm picking a product that I think I picked their competitor in the past. So I'm going to pick DocuSign. Since I've picked EchoSign, I will now pick DocuSign, since one of our customers has selected to move forward with DocuSign. I've been playing with it the last couple days, implementing it. It's got a lot of great features. Obviously, the core is being able to send somebody a document for them to sign.
Right.
It has the ability to do these like merge fields, one way or two way. So you can display out fields inside of the document that exists within Salesforce. You sort of map them and have them be read-only, or you can have them be open with the values that you have and allow people to write back into Salesforce, filling it out, like address, for example, on a contact. If you were to send somebody something that they needed to sign and you had their physical address merged over from what you have in Salesforce, but it's the wrong address, they can fill out their correct address and it'll save back into Salesforce.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's very cool.
Oh, that's very cool. I can think of another use case for that.
Yeah, there's a lot of good use cases for that particular functionality. Forget the signature part. And they do e-signatures. You know, they are, you know, SAS 70 ISO whatever certified for storing of documentation, and you know they when you get on the phone with their salespeople, they always start with this whole law thing that got put into place in the 90s that allowed electronic signatures to be real.
Circa 1997.
Yeah, like in the Bill Clinton era, there was a law that was passed. So anyway, it's a pretty good product. Integrates really well with Salesforce. You could use it standalone as well. The integration's pretty neat. Like, you can be on an opportunity and send them a document to sign. You can pull the contact information from a contact role on the opportunity.
How's the pricing work?
They have a couple models. So they have the Pro model, which is a single user only, which is $14.99 a month. They have the Business, which is 2+ users, and allows, I think that's where you can actually integrate it into Salesforce. Allows for like shared libraries of documents, things of that nature. That's $19.99 per user per month. And then they have the Enterprise, which is 10 plus users, where you can just do a whole slew of more advanced security, customization, and enterprise-wide management stuff. Yeah, price varies. Request a quote. Probably depends on whether you're 10 or 10,000.
Right.
So,
very cool.
But anyway, yeah, it's a pretty neat product. They have a couple different editions. You know, they have one for real estate. They have one for Salesforce. They have mobile covered, so you can hit it on your iPad or your iPhone, or you can check the status of your documents.
Nice.
It's pretty neat.
Nice. All right. Well, does it integrate with our buddies at Conga, App Extremes, Conga Composer?
Oh, I have to imagine that's a Conga integration.
Right, but that's the ability to send a document, a PDF from Conga over into DocuSign.
Yeah, that's a Conga thing. It's like in their buttons that you create.
Right, I'm just wondering, do they do the same thing with this?
I believe they do.
Okay.
I know we've done it with DocuSign, and I'm pretty sure when I was looking at the documentation on how to do it with DocuSign, right below was how to do it with DocuSign.
Cool. All right, well, my pick is solving a problem. You're going to want to pay attention to this one that you've had forever, which is that when you're listening to podcasts, which you might listen to one or two,
a couple
other than ours, iTunes really stinks at podcasts.
By the way, they do integrate with Conga. Sorry,
okay.
I was looking for it.
When iTunes as the application that's on your desktop for podcasts is great. It downloads new podcasts and makes them available for you. That's great. But what it doesn't do is get them over to the device you want to listen to them on very well. You can sync, but that kind of, it's a pain. You can use the Wi-Fi sync, which I've had real problems with, so I've kind of turned off Wi-Fi sync. But the idea is I want to be able to listen. If I know a podcast comes out every week or every day or whatever, I want to be able to subscribe to that podcast, and I want it, when it comes out, I want it to instantly come down to my device of choice. I want to subscribe to multiples and have the subscriptions kept on the device. And I want to be able to stream and or download anything and have it give me alerts when they come out. All sound pretty good, right?
I want that right now.
Income Instacast. Well, I'm going to show it to you so you don't have to use your thing. So Income Instacast. Instacast HD, a product for the iPad or for the iPad. And it does all of that. So you first go through, look what's happening.
It's downloading stuff.
It automatically does a couple things. One, the first thing is as new podcasts become available, it can send you notifications and put it into your notifications. Great. It can also be set up with tons of settings to say, do you want just to be notified there's a new one, or do you want to download it automatically? So this one finds that it's available and automatically downloads it. And you can have a difference of settings for both audio and video. So you can say video ones, don't download them, but audio ones, always download them. You can tell them when to keep them, how many to keep, etc., etc. It sends you notifications. It works with iCloud, so it backs up all of your subscriptions to the iCloud. And if you have the iPhone version, it will then sync your subscriptions back and forth to the iPhone. I have downloaded and played with it. I've subscribed to a bunch of our podcasts.
It doesn't download these things in the background, though, does it? You have to open the app, and then it downloads them?
I don't know. This one, it looks like it didn't do it until it sent me a notification that said there's a new one available, and then when I clicked on it, it did it. I will have to see if it can do it in the background. I'm also not on. I was on Wi-Fi, and I know it can work on the iPhone with 3G, and you can tell it not to download over 3G or not. Anyway, I haven't actually listened to any episodes in it. It does have the ability to speed up podcasts like you can in books, which is nice. But it has some nice features. It has views of it. You can see how many you're subscribed to.
So this stores it here, not in iTunes.
So it basically keeps it away. So what I think I'm going to do for a week or two is I'm going to turn off syncing of podcasts to this and just let this manage all my podcasts and download and listen to and see how that works. It's called Instacast. It is pretty cool. It's on the App Exchange. On the Apple product. It just gave me a notification that it's done. downloading it. So Instacast HD. I think there's an Instacast for the iPhone. They are different. It is not the cheapest thing in the world. In a world where everything we get is free, $4.99 seems like a lot of money. So, but for us who listen to our podcasts and want to be notified, for me, it's the notification, because there's lots of podcasts that I listen to, but I want to know when the new one comes out, and I want you to basically send me a notification so I know I can start to listen to it. Like, there's some fantasy football ones that I like. I want to know. I want to know the minute it's available, because then I can start listening to it. So anyway, Instacast HD. That's it. That's our CloudFocus App Picks of the week. Oh, it's $4.99. I think the one for the iPhone is relatively the same pricing. All right, so that's it. Remember to go to blog.arkusinc.com and subscribe to the blog there. Go to twitter.com/arkusinc, twitter.com/jasonmatwood, twitter.com/justlc if you want to see what we're tweeting about. I've been using my Zeit and tweeting a story or two I find interesting in the morning. Facebook.com/ArkusInc, which is where you can interact with us on the, people post there as we post blog posts, and we post the CloudFocus Weekly up there. Also subscribe in iTunes if you want to subscribe to this, or now go in and subscribe in Instacast if you are using that. I have subscribed to us. We'll see how that affects our ratings. Always, remember on the blog post now, blog.arkusinc.com, you can also use it and discuss. You can log in with your social networking, leave us comments. We really like that, and we will get back to you. We'll interact with you there or on Facebook, wherever you want. We're the social. And until next week, not next week, until the week after next week, until March, we will see you then, and enjoy those cloudy days and a nice holiday off.